Thinking about living in the North Seattle area, but not sure which neighborhoods are going to be right for you. Today, we're going to talk about my top 7 neighborhoods north of Seattle that are great areas where I would want to live if I was going to live anywhere except my perfect house that I already have. So if you want to know what some of the hottest neighborhoods are, not only for hot appreciation, new construction, prestige address, but also places that you can actually afford, places that you will have that nice lifestyle of balance, easy commute, good stuff for the kids to do, then watch this video. I'm really going to go a little bit deeper than I usually do into some of the communities that I think you should take a look at north of Seattle. And you know me, of course, I'm Emily Cressey, local Seattle real estate broker, here to help you find the right neighborhood for you. So whether you're moving locally or you are coming in from out of state, relocating to the area for a job, to be closer to family, I want to help you find the right home and the right community. So if you are ready to start shopping for that home and want someone who cares, who's going to be fun, really knows her stuff when it comes to getting a good deal, doing that negotiation, I'm definitely here to help. So look me up at my website, homeproassociates.com, or on all of my socials, Home Pro Associates. Alrighty, let's dive in. So as I always like to get everybody oriented with the map and what's going on, you can see here, this is Western Washington. We're circling Seattle here, just so everybody's oriented where we are, right? We're coming to Seattle, big employment center, tech jobs, medical jobs, banking jobs, all sorts of things. But you know what? I've heard that there's drug use in Seattle, higher taxes, more crime, and I just don't think that's what I want. So I am looking north of Seattle, and I think that's a great choice. So I'm going to give you some options that are really close in, as well as some that are higher, farther north. And typically, I would say the farther away from Seattle you go, the more affordable the home prices are going to be. Also, the more potential for land and big amounts of space. So if you want to get something that's really a little bit more rural feeling, keep a horse or whatever, you're going to need to go quite farther out from Seattle. For the most part, we're talking about here kind of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on a 1/4 acre or less. What are we in for? What are our options, right? So the first neighborhood, the suburb here that I want to point out is Shoreline. So Shoreline is a city that is just north. It's on the border. It's here at 145th Avenue Northeast that things switch over into the Shoreline jurisdiction. And they are blessed to have Highway 99, which turns into prostitution and drug central in Seattle. They're keeping it a little cleaner. They're actually remodeling it with like flowers and boulevards. They're trying to make it more pleasant, but it is still a bit of a crime hub. And then the freeway. And then over here on this side of the lake, this is where I live in a community called Lake Forest Park, which is teeny tiny. But if you like this area, if you like the Shoreline area in general, you can take a look at, there's Lake Forest Park as well. Now here in Shoreline, it's historically been considered a great place to raise a family, lots of good schools, lots of parks, lots of sports and rec activities. There's a swimming pool, there's a gym, there's a track, a couple of good high schools and middle schools that have just been remodeled, so some nice educational facilities. A couple of fancy neighborhoods as well. So I want to point out over here, typically, okay, just orientation-wise, if you're in the middle of any of these areas by the freeway and by Highway 99, which run parallel to each other, this is kind of the less expensive, not as nice area because of the proximity to streets and crime and that type of things. So conversely, the further you get toward the edges, especially where you have water, then that's typically going to be the nicer, more fancy luxury types of homes. So over here in Richmond Beach, the Richmond Beach neighborhood is nice. There are a lot of homes that there's kind of hills sloping down. So even if you're further up the hill, you can still get a view of the sunsets over Puget Sound. You can get a view of the Olympic Mountains, which are over here, way over here on the Olympic Peninsula, but you can see them. In some areas, we also see the Cascade Mountains, which are over here, or Mount Rainier, which is down here toward the south. I think it's in this vicinity. It's not on the map. But we have a lot of mountains, a lot of water, which creates a lot of great views. And this is a really nice little park here that's a beach. Now, I don't want you to imagine that you're in South Beach in Miami with, what does Will Smith say? Dominican honeys with cinnamon tans or something like that. You're not going to get a lot of bikinis on this beach because it's cold. There's breeze coming off the water. The water itself is cold and it tends to be rocky. I don't know if you know, but some beaches, they bring in artificial sand for the tourists to lie on, and it's very comfortable and nice and warm, smooth underfoot. But we don't have that here. We have rocks. And what we do have is like wildlife interpreters who come to the shore, especially at low tide. They'll help you find crabs, barnacles, sea urchins. I've found like octopi, sea stars, as starfish are now known. So we have really fun, like science interactive opportunities to learn about our nature. We're very environmentally focused here. So some fun activities here. And if you want to go luxury, there are a couple luxury neighborhoods here. One is Innis Arden. This one has a private pool and a tennis club, but you could probably still get in. And then up here, no, it's down here on 145th is the Highlands. So this is a gated community. The HOAs are like $1,000 a month. You got a cost of entry is probably a couple million. This is the most expensive place in Shoreline to live, and this is expensive, still has views, but it's not gated. I can drive in there and take a look around. So check out those two communities if you're looking for something more luxurious. And then on up the coast, Woodway is very exclusive. It has some large private wooded estates, some view property. It's kind of the foresty suburb of Edmonds, which has the ferry and the beach. It does have a sandy beach up in Edmonds and a walkable boardwalk type of area along the marina. Really nice for tourists. You could take the ferry here back and forth to Kingston, go get lunch, come back. A lot of people enjoy retiring in this area. It has a great senior center. There's a symphony. There's a little play. The Driftwood Players have a theater there. So there's a lot of view property here in this area called the Bowl of Edmonds, which looks out over the sound, and you can walk or drive down here to the marina and then get out of your car and walk around, because the Bowl of Edmonds is like a stadium when you have to go down the hill to get to the water. It affords great views, but it does make it a little bit more hilly. And then there's a lot of shopping in a really cute Cabot Cove-esque downtown area. Rick Steves, the guy that does all of the European travel videos for PBS and has books and has tours and a travel company, this is where his office is. And it does in many ways remind you of all the best things of a European small town community. So if you want something that's more of a community feel, a town, you're going to go out walking with people and connecting, Edmonds is a really great place to take a look at. It is a little bit further to get back to the freeway, so you have to go up here, probably a 10 or 15 minute drive with minimal traffic just to get you on I-5 going down into the city of Seattle. In most places, I would say rule of thumb, you're going to be looking at a 10 or 15 minute drive from wherever you are on the side to the middle. Just to give you a sense of scale, 15 minutes is a good estimate. So let's see. Yep, Shoreline. We've got the two luxury communities, Innis Arden and the Highlands. We've got the Edmonds community, but Shoreline is a great suburb. And Lake Forest Park, I will just speak to here. So this is another kind of beachfront community, but here we're on the beaches of Lake Washington, which is freshwater. Here at Kenmore, at the north end of the lake, is an airfield. So if you need to do any commuting by seaplane, because I don't know, maybe that's you need to just get get on the seaplane and go to Canada or the San Juan Islands or, to your private island somewhere, you probably need to charter a seaplane. And so they take off on the water, they fly up into the air. They can't go too far, but they can go out to the San Juan Islands, which are, here within Puget Sound. They can also go up here, like to Victoria, Canada, which is a beautiful tourist attraction. If you've never been to Victoria, it's a lot like visiting London. It's totally set up for tourists. They have beautiful hanging flower baskets. They have a fascinating wax museum. They have a history museum up there that's really cool, like natural history. They have places that you can go for high tea. And I don't know that it keep you busy for a week, but it's definitely the type of thing that could give you a wonderful weekend or even a day trip. When I was in school, like the whole 6th grade class would go up here for a day trip. And unfortunately, we did not charter the little jets, but we took a boat called the Victoria Clipper, which is a little fast speedboat that goes up here and then back. I think it was about, I want to say a 3-hour drive. So maybe boat trip. Leave at 6 in the morning, get here at 9, spend the day, leave at 6 at night, get back at 9 p.m., something like that. So that's a great... Bouchard Gardens is there. If you guys like horticultural gardens, displays, like going out and looking at amazing English gardens, that alone is worth the whole trip. That's the best thing about it. And the Wax Museum. I really like both of those. So anyway, wherever you end up living, you should go to Victoria and visit that while you're here. Okay, back to business. Lake Forest Park has almost nothing going on except residential stuff. Down here at the bottom, it has a little mall. It's called the Lake Forest Park Town Center. It's a two-story strip mall kind of a thing with the Mod Pizza, the Starbucks coffee, the drugstore. There's the local library has a branch there. There's a food court. There's a huge new and used bookstore, ballet center, ice cream place, dance center, jewelry store. So it's got a little bit of everything, but it's not a huge shopping mall. And the nice thing about this is that they have up in the food court, they call it Third Place Commons. And the idea is that it's a community building center. So they have a stage. Sometimes they'll have local artists perform there, or they'll have dances where they'll push back the cafeteria tables and everyone can do folk dancing in the middle. They have some conference rooms. So if you want to have a meeting with 10 people, you can do that in one of the glassed off rooms. They have a little book printing place. They have a huge chessboard on the floor. Like if you go to Europe and you see those people playing chess out in the community, out on the sidewalk. This is an indoor version since it rains all the time. No one wants to hang out on the sidewalk, but we can still hypothetically watch people play chess. I usually find that the chess is being used by 3-year-olds who are the same size as the chess pieces and like the challenge of moving them around. But it's a nice gathering spot for people during the day to kind of hang out and meet up and have a sense of community. They do book readings at the bookstore and so forth. So that'll be the place to be if you live in Lake Forest Park. Another thing that I really like is here along Lake Washington, they have Log Boom Park, which is a beachfront park that they just remodeled. They brought in sand, right? I'm looking at you, some of you other Richmond Beach, rocky beaches. They brought in sand. It's pretty warm. The water is a little bit warmer than the ocean, but not a lot. And so that's a nice place to hang out. And it's along the Burke-Gilman Trail, which is a biking trail that goes down here along the lake. It used to be a railroad track, so it's very flat. You have to cross streets sometimes, which can slow you down unless you're a professional commuting biker, in which case you don't stop for nothing. But you can go down here to the University of Washington, or you can go here through Bothell, the north end of the lake, and out toward Woodinville, where I used to play softball and now has turned into wine country, quote unquote. No grapes are grown there, but you can go there and drink wine because they have a lot of wine tasting rooms. Presumably, I think it's Washington State wine grown in Eastern Washington. I will show you. Okay. Mountains, green, Western Washington, mountains, tan, deserty Washington. So Eastern Washington is much more agricultural. This is where all of our famous apples come from, huge orchards, wheat and other field crops out here as well. Some wolves up here by Canada. And anyway, occasionally we find a place that's warm enough and dry enough to grow wine grapes. And so once they're out here in the desert, we have to bring the wine to where the rich people live, which is in Western Washington. Although those orchardists can make a lot of money too, but they can't drink that much wine. So they bring it out here to Woodinville to sell it to us. And there are actually some nice wineries here. Chateau Ste. Michelle is a nice winery with an outdoor amphitheater, and they'll actually do smaller venue concerts, like with people from the good old days that maybe have a following, but not a huge enough tour to pack the Kingdom or some other stadium type venue. So they can do that there while people drink wine and have cheese out on the lawn in our beautiful long summer evenings. Okay, so you're looking at Lake Forest Park as just kind of an offshoot, almost a neighborhood within Shoreline down here. And mostly here, you're going to have wooded lots. So if you like a lot of trees, if you like to feel like you're in the forest, if you don't mind being on a hill, then this is a good place to be. And down here along the water is a neighborhood called Sheridan Beach. And then up here is Sheridan Heights, which is up on hill. And these are nice, nice homes, well kept. They've got an HOA to kind of make sure you keep your yard up and that type of a thing. A lawyer, actually one of my lawyers that does title work for my company, lives in this area. His grandson was Boy Scouts with my son. And so we got to go to his house. He has a nice view of the water. Another lady from my church lives down here. Her husband was an attorney, so they live down, they don't have a view of the water, but they're very close. And I think that proximity to the trail, Brier Trail, as well as the beach is a big plus. Here, to get onto the freeway, I would recommend going south because you're trying to go south anyway. This is kind of a main drag, a big arterial road. But at some point, probably 145th, which is right here, you're going to want to cross over and get onto the freeway. So count that 15 minutes or so, depending on traffic. Okay, so far I've given you three. I've given you Shoreline, I've given you Edmonds, and I've given you Lake Forest Park. I'm just going to briefly mention Brier, which is a bit of the land that time forgot. They have pretty big acreage lots here, and one of the parks does have a horseback riding sand ring in it. I have not seen a horse there recently in Brier, but I know that they have existed in the past and within my lifetime. I was horse crazy as a kid, so I always made note of where the horses were. And there were horses in Brier. I haven't seen any lately. There might still be a few floating around. They do have larger lot sizes and a bit more of that semi-rural feeling. And nice homes too. Fairly expensive area here in Brier. Mountain Lake Terrace, smaller homes, older homes, more affordable. Some sense of community. They do have sort of this Mountain Lake Terrace Days, I think it's just called Terrace Days, festival in the summer for a week. They'll bring in Elvis impersonators and have, fancy car contests, and they make a big whoop. Restaurants do tastings. It's kind of an idea of bringing people in the community together, bringing people from outside of the community to spend a little bit of money and discover new vendors and that type of a thing. Mountain Lake Terrace does have a pool. That's where I took my swimming lessons as a kid. Did ballet there. They have like a haunted pool on Halloween where they turn out a lot of the lights and have like an obstacle course that you can go through on your floating inner tube and stuff. It's pretty cool. So great little library, park and ride. So this is one of the places where you can get on right now the bus and soon the light rail to whip you into Seattle. So if you're trying to get to the bus without needing to drive, then you'd have some good options right there. But pretty small communities, I wouldn't put those as a major player, although if you like what I've said about them, put them on your list. All right, next one up is Lynnwood. I love Lynnwood. I have a great other video about Lynnwood. So make sure you watch that if this is an area that you turn out to be interested in, because this is the place where I bought my first home when I came triumphantly back to Seattle with my husband on my arm in the 2000s, the aughts, back in the day. That was where we bought our first home, and my parents lived in Lake Forest Park, but we could not afford to buy a home there. So we ended up buying a home in Lynnwood. So I know a lot about it. I really enjoyed living there. That was where we raised our kids for several years. I think we stayed there for about 10 years. And Lynnwood is, it's really good for many things. I find it humorous. There's a Chamber of Commerce there. And no, it's the convention center. Anyway, the bus on the side of the bus, it was advertising the Lynnwood Convention Center as a place for meetings and things. And their slogan was Lynnwood, 20 minutes from everywhere. It's like, no one's going to want to come to Lynnwood. That's just going to make them want to leave and drive 20 minutes away from Lynnwood with that type of a slogan. But I think they were advertising its convenience. And in fact, its convenience is one of the reasons that we moved there, because we didn't know, my husband had an independent contractor job that was going to be ending. And so we didn't know where he would end up working. He did not have a permanent job lined up when we got here. So here in Lynnwood, it's really close to this X, the intersection here of I-5 and 405, which means it's great for going down this way into Seattle or down that way into Bellevue or up this way into Everett. So you have about three equidistant, Everett might be a little closer. You have three strong employment centers radiating out from that way, 20 minutes in every direction, right? So if you're not sure where you're going to be working, or one spouse has a job and one is going to be looking, that type of a thing, then it might make sense to really prioritize Lynnwood. I think the commuting convenience of this location will continue to provide value here. I have seen Lynnwood continue to be a little bit more affordable than its eastern counterpart, Bothell. Bellevue right now represents the most expensive, nicest area, especially here on Lake Washington. This is like the primo real estate where Bill Gates had his house and everything like that. So as you go up this way, it becomes more affordable. But this is, if you had to choose good schools, good commute, growing city, etc., you might want to be on the east side. Problem is, people can't afford it. And as people have been expanding into more and more and more affordable as they get further away, Bothell in this area has really exploded in prices lately. I have seen Lynnwood over here continue to be more affordable because the schools here are not quite as good. Although what Lynnwood does have going in its favor is the light rail station. So that's brought in a lot of new construction, especially toward higher density. So we're seeing apartments, condos, townhomes, a lot of that coming in and building close to the new transit center that is not yet open, but should be opening soon. And so the builders and everybody is very excited about that. It is a nice straight shot down there into Seattle on the light rail, or it will be. Speaking of, I didn't mention when we talked about Edmonds, there's a train in Edmonds that goes along the coast and goes down into downtown Seattle. So I think it goes twice a day in the morning and twice a day in the evening. So if you are in Edmonds and you want to take public transportation to downtown Seattle, then check out that train. I believe it's called the Sounder. So Lynnwood's got the light rail station, lots of growth, has a little bit less good schools than Points East, but it also makes it more affordable. And what we really have a lot of here is retail shopping. So if you work in retail, if you like to shop, if you just want the convenience of everything that you could ever want being pretty close, Lynnwood is great. It had one of the first Chipotles in the area, which I used to go to multiple times per week, if not, we never went there every day, but we went there a lot. Really liked Chipotle, especially before we had kids, when we could go out and do things. Let's see. They've got Alderwood Mall, which is a huge indoor-outdoor combination shopping mall, one of the first remodeled, reimagined, upscaled take the old mall and bring new life to it by making it nice, making it a community hangout destination type of mall. And that had the first, what did they tell me? The first Canadian, I met Canadian tourists in Lynnwood, and I was like, why are you here? Lynnwood is 20 minutes from everything. And they said, you have the first Nordstrom south of the Canadian border. So they were actually shopping tourists that had come to the area. So anyway, it's got a lot of retail stuff, restaurants and shopping. It does have the Highway 99, which can be a little bit dicey. And there are a lot of affordable homes, different types of homes, old and new. Some horses in the area. I lived in a townhome, new construction, that was across the street from a place that had a horse. So yeah, horses have been seen in the last 20 years in Lynnwood, but I wouldn't go there with the thought that you were getting a horse. I want a pony. Go somewhere where it's green on my map. Or you can go here, Bridlewood Park in Bellevue. That's a nice urban place where you can go with your pony. H Mart is a great Asian food grocery store. Really like it. Good kimchi. There's some good sushi places here. I really like the rec center. They have a pool. They just built this in the last 15 years. They've got a lazy river pool. They've got an Olympic pool. They've got the shallow toddler pool with the buckets of water that dump down on you. And so that's really fun. They kind of have a 2-hour limit. You get a timed entrance ticket. You can go in and swim for an hour or two, maybe 90 minutes. And then the bell rings and everybody has to leave. And then the next tranche of people come. But this is a really popular place to go, especially in the winter because, you know, the weather's kind of not as great outside. So it's kind of a fun, warm, family-friendly activity. The last time I did one of these videos, I left out Mill Creek, and one of my friends was like, why didn't you put in Mill Creek? I think she lived there. But Mill Creek is actually sort of the posh side of Lynnwood. So if you're over here, and I guess Lynnwood over here, right, this general area, if you go over here, you're going to get to Mill Creek. And so this is considered nicer. I always call them like estate style homes, but they have a lot of really big homes. They have some homeowners associations. They have larger lots. They are all built at the same time. There's a lot of uniformity and just some really nice suburban kind of areas here. You're going to need about $1 million to get in there, but nice homes, nice areas, quiet little walking trails. Whenever I'm down there, like in the evenings around 6 or something, I'll see lots of little families out walking together, holding hands or taking the dog out for a walk and that type of thing. So if you want quiet, woodsy, suburban, Mill Creek is a really good one to look at. And there's nothing there. They have like a little 1 or 2 blocks with like the grocery store and the Edward Jones and all of the shopping places. But then that's it. And the rest of it is pretty suburban. They've got a big park. They have a park and ride, but there's not a lot of downtowning happening in Mill Creek. The other place I want to point out both some pros and some cons so you can see whether this is right for you is Mukilteo. Mukilteo is it's north, but it's a bit at the end of the road. It takes a while to get there. You basically drive up the freeway, I-5, you get off right here, and then you're on this Mukilteo Speedway, Highway 525, going out, and that can be, probably to get to the end, it's like a half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. But this is a pretty long drive, and there's a lighthouse out there. There's a nice Ivar's Fish and Chips, and there's a ferry that can take you out here. You see this little route over to Whidbey Island here. So people do come for their islanding. But a lot of the people who live here like 2 things, golf and airplanes. So we have some really nice homes in this area with golf courses out overlooking Puget Sound. And then we have a little municipal airport as well. So if you're the kind of guy that likes to golf during the week and fly your airplane on the weekend, you can. I've got a friend who lives here in the Picnic Point area. He's pretty wealthy, owns some gas stations, and now he has gotten into flying. And so he comes over to the airport here, right? Payne Field by the Boeing Museum of Flight over here. And anyway, he was saying that he was looking into um, building more airplane hangars for them over there, because apparently the millionaires just don't have anywhere to park their planes, because all of the airports down here in Bellevue are being taken over by the billionaires. So they're being forced out, and now they have to go up here to Mukilteo. So it's a hard knock life, guys, and there are people flying here as well. So just be aware of, any airplane noise concerns that could be an issue for you. Also, we've got Boeing Field as well, and there's some discussion of some of these airports expanding into more commercial flights, like business travel down to California and that type of thing. They also have UPS and FedEx types of flights, package delivery flights going in and out of there. I remember when we lived here in Lynnwood, when one of those giant like 747 FedEx planes would come by, I think they were following 99, which is not like a fancy street. And I felt like I could wave to the pilot and, he would see me. So they were still pretty low by the time they got here. So just something to be aware of, especially with the caveat in mind that, is this fine if it happens once every 15 minutes? Is it fine if it happens once every 5 minutes? What's the noise like? What's the flight pattern during different types of weather? And I would suggest wherever you're looking for that home, like knock on a few doors in the neighborhood and just say, hey, wondering how the neighborhood is. Do you guys get a lot of airplanes? How is that working out for you? Great high school, Kamiak High School, really good. Everyone loves Kamiak. They've got some good sports teams too. The last one I'm going to mention is not Everett. Everett is right here. I've made a couple of other videos on Everett, but for the most part, it's not one of the quote unquote best suburbs. So I'm just going to keep that one off the list. And I'm going to go back down here and just talk a little bit more about Kenmore and Bothell. Kenmore, like Lake Forest Park, is kind of a nothing drive-through type of neighborhood. I would say it's a suburb of Bothell. Bothell's big. Bothell's got all this area. It spans from King County into Snohomish County. They've been annexing and expanding for a long time. So Bothell is quite popular, even though it's not directly north of Seattle. You'd have to, in order to get from Bothell to Seattle, you'd have to go across here on 522, which is what I do to get back and forth. My kids' school is like over here by 405. So I go back and forth on here about 20 minutes every day. Add to that, going from here to get on I-5 is going to take a while. So probably what they would recommend on Google Maps is to go up here and then down, but it's going to depend on traffic and time of day. So if you really need to make it into Seattle, this is not a super convenient location, although it certainly can be done. It's just going to be slow during those commuting hours. Bothell is appreciated for really good schools. It has the North Shore school system, which is quite popular. And like I was saying earlier, it's seen a lot of price rise in homes over the last couple years because of its proximity to Bellevue. Bothell has a little river, the Duwamish River, that comes through here. And they have what's called the Bothell Landing, which is their downtown area. They had a cute older downtown, and now they're making it a cute modern downtown. They're putting up lots of high-rise apartment buildings with rooftop gardens. They have Pop Keeney Stadium out there. They have a little what they call pop-up dog park, which is this grassy field in the park. They fence it off with temporary fencing, let the dogs run all around. When the grass is destroyed, they take down the fence, no more dogs. They reseed the grass, and then after it grows back again, sad grass, the fence comes back, the dogs come back. So it kind of comes in and out of favor, but it's right along the 522, this little road. So I always see it when I'm driving by, and the dogs and the people all look like they're having a great little old time there. Here's the Bothell Landing Park. Here's the downtown area. McMinimum School. I was just there for drinks with some ladies from my kids' school. The 7th grade moms were getting together. So had a glass of wine for like $12 or something. And this is Bothell High School right here. So this is kind of the nexus of the fun, jazzy downtown life here, in my opinion. And then over here is the University of Washington Bothell campus. So this is having its own growth, building dorms and apartments in this area as well. And of course, if you're going into Bellevue or you're going north to Everett, you have really good freeway access here from Bothell. But, don't be fooled. Not all of Bothell is the same. This is kind of hip and happening. And then up here, you're just going to get a different vibe, which is fine. More rural properties, lots of new construction happening in Bothell. A lot of people want to be here. So it's a great place to check out and should definitely be on your list of communities that you're exploring north of Seattle. Thanks so much for watching this video on my top 7 suburbs that you should take a serious look at as you go north of Seattle looking for your home. This is Emily Cressey here. I'm a local real estate broker, and I love helping people get matched up with the right home for them. So if you're relocating to the area or already live here and are looking for your home, your next home, your first home, your forever home, whatever it's going to be, I would love to apply for the job of being your realtor to help you out. So let me know if that's something that you'd like to discuss. You can reach me at homeproassociates.com. And until then, I will see you on the next video.